Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention?
I am that dude, Bodkins. Patty to patty. It's ridiculous. No way. There's nobody else out there. He's your guy. Give a big round of applause for the one and only BodkinShow. I'm going to repeat that again, folks. I didn't stutter. Welcome to the Bodkins Show. Good evening, everybody. Or good afternoon, I guess, whatever you want to call it, depending on where you're at in the world. Welcome to another great episode of the Bodkins Show. I am your host, Bodkins, as always. It is always a pleasure joining you. A little special edition show to this afternoon, evening, wherever you're coming from. We were supposed to do this yesterday, but things happen. When I first started this show, I wanted to just do a little bit more than sports and talk to people from all over the world, whether it's music, movies, things like that. Now, I know for the better part of all my interviews and things like that, you guys were always talking sports. But today we got a little special guest. I've watched this guy on TikTok for a while now. I'm excited to bring him on. You can catch him all over TikTok. He's got music. He's always putting his own music out, talking about old music as well. Welcome to the show for the very first time, the one and only legendary Proficey, baby.
Hey.
What's up, my man? Thank you for joining the Bodkin Show. I appreciate it. I don't know where to begin and what to start, but go ahead and let the world know who you are, as if they already don't.
All right, man. Hey, first off, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. My name's Proficey. 34-year-old from Ohio, hailing from Toledo. Huge hip hop fan, hip hop promoter, I guess you could say at this point. And basically your average, ordinary baller. You know what
I mean? Amen to that, brother. Let's talk about that. From Toledo, Ohio. Ohio is not known for, I don't think a whole lot of, I guess a couple rappers from Ohio, but I don't really know a whole lot of Toledo. I'm trying to think. Bone Thugs is from Cleveland, I believe. So, so there's not a heavy Ohio rap form, unless you know a lot of people that I don't. But off the top of my head, I know Bone Thugs represents Ohio to the fullest, maybe a couple others. But what got you into hip-hop itself, and like how old and how did you discover hip-hop? I feel like people discover hip-hop at different ages, especially, let's face it, we're two white guys. So we found it probably different ways.
So great question. And you left out MGK, man. He's
he's a rock star now, ain't he? MGK is a rock star,
rapper turned rocker. He can still spit bars though, man. But yeah, I guess I first got introduced to it real young. I kind of grew up in a rough neighborhood for most of my upbringing. I was like, the only white kid in class, the only white kid in school type shit. And I'd say probably right around 96, 97. I remember when Tupac got killed. I didn't know who he was though. And I remember a bunch of people at my school being upset about it. And then I remember when Biggie died, it was the same thing. I didn't really know who these guys were. And then after their death, I started to get introduced to their stuff. So I have an older brother who's 4 years older than me. And actually, speaking of Bone Thugs, that was one of the first introductions to hip hop in our house. I think whatever their first album was, one with the Thuggish Ruggish Bone on it. I can't remember the name of it, but there was a kid in his class. He would have been in like 6th grade. I would have been in 2nd grade, and the legend has it, this kid was like, "Have you ever heard of Bone Thugs? Well, you're coming to my house after school." And they went over to his house and listened to the tape. And my brother asked to borrow the tape. He brought it home, played it for me. He was like, "Bro, I don't know if he played it for me or I busted in being nosy. Like, what is that?"
He was like, "What's this?" And they were just like, "The Thuggish Bones."
Yeah, exactly. And after that, so like I was always a baby in the house. My older sister, she's 10 years older than me. She was into a lot of grunge rock and shit like that. So she was always listening to Alanis Morissette and Nirvana and Stone Temple Pilots, also Bush, all that stuff throughout the house. My mom listened
that grudge, that 90s grudge. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
My mom listened to nothing but country, and then my brother was kind of all over the place. And I don't know what it was. I think I went to Canada at an air show as a kid, and there was somebody out there passing out CDs. It had to be '97, and there was Mo Money Mo Problems was on that CD with Puffy, and that was like my favorite song in this whole compilation. And after that, it was a wrap, man. It's just like it seemed like a couple years may have passed when I was introduced to the Slim Shady LP. That's another awesome story.
Yeah, 99. Yeah.
Yeah. That was I was actually out back. We were playing hockey. Where I'm at, it gets pretty cold, so we'd spray the driveway down with a water hose and just go out there with our shoes and crush a pop can, and that would be our hockey puck. And we're out there. I was out there minding my own business, and my brother comes running into the backyard with this tape, and he's like, "You got to hear this shit." And it was the bootleg version of the Slim Shady LP. I'm not even sure if the album had been released yet. I want to say it was like a month before the album was released, but he stole the tape from his friend's older brother. So again, my brother's older than me. His friend's brother was already in college and had somehow got a cassette. And I swiped that tape and acted like I didn't know what happened to it. A bunch of drama that followed. But yeah, man, that's kind of how I got introduced to rap. I was really young. I was first, second grade, I think, and just fell in love with it ever since.
Yeah. With your mom being like a country, cause so like it's similar. It's crazy. Like you got your dynamic and how you developed. That's kind of how I found it. In like my family, my stepmom is very like old school, like Pink Floyd, type Led Zeppelin. That kind of genre. My dad, very old school country. So it's your mom listening to the country, and you got hip hop. You got Bone Thugs, you got Eminem blaring. Like, did she ever like say, "Hey, we don't listen to that"? Like, it's talking about cursing and this and that, or
no. So both my parents were pretty cool about it. So like, I got all the classic rock stuff from my dad, which I didn't really do, kind of in and out of my life, but I got a lot of the classic rock from him, the Leonard Skinnards and all that. But no, when it came to music, that's one thing I cherish about both of them is they never tried to like push the censorship on me. I remember playing 97 Bonnie and Clyde for my mom because I thought it was just so so cool. And I was like 9 or 10 years old. And I was like, "Mom, you have to hear this." And I remember telling her, don't take this away from me. Don't try to take the tape. And, I played it. And afterwards I was like, "Isn't that so cool? You could hear the trunk closing and like the traffic passing." And like, she's like, "I don't know if I don't know. It's your music, but I don't condone it." But she never tried to take my tape away. So that's love.
Who is your favorite? Like, cause on your TikToks, and we'll get into how you started and all that with the TikToks. But like you post so much now, I enjoy it now because now you're posting like even country songs and things like that. I enjoyed the fancy one with Reba and a couple of those. So it's like, man, this guy was all hip hop head, and then now it's fun to watch you introduce your countryside, and now to know that your mom inspired you on those things. So I enjoy that. But what, like, do you have like a favorite artist that you were like, "Hey, this is my dude"? Like I tell people all the time, like I'm a diehard Eminem. Like it's hard to convince me that anybody's better than him, but that's just my flavor. Like he's done some not so good projects to me, but I'll always listen to him no matter what he puts out. So what about you?
So I guess it all depends on my mood for that day or that week. It's like I've looked back at the top 10 that somebody had asked me, "Who's your favorite? Who's your top 10?" And it's already changed. It changes, I think, constantly of who I listen to on the regular. But I guess for like all-time greats, it's kind of like a two-headed goat between Lil Wayne and Eminem. For me, they're two totally different styles. I think M is a superior lyricist and a storyteller, but Wayne is a superior rapper when it comes to freestyles and just his metaphors and similes. It's just untouched. So they're kind of two totally different. It's like icy hot, you know. It's like you got to have both up there.
What they both bring to me though is that wordplay, like you said, like what we think is like one word, and that's what M and Wayne do to me. Is like what they take one word. Old Wayne, this new, and I'm not a big fan of the new Wayne stuff, but old Wayne to me, he had a run like nobody's business. But they're metaphorics, like one where we think one thing, but then you expand that. Oh, it means like 8 different things in this 3-letter sentence. You know what I mean? Like it's insane to me, that metaphoric, and they can bend that word. It's like, oh shit, I never even thought about that. Like you got to take like a deep dive into it. And it's like, oh man, he had like 5 lines in there that I thought didn't even mean anything, but it really means something.
Oh yeah. You got to really decipher his stuff sometimes. And even as a hip hop head, I'm still known to rush to the to genius.com and look up the lyrics on some things. Just be like, wait a second. Oh, right. There's who else is really good at that is doesn't get enough credit is Lupe Fiasco.
Yes, yeah. And I think he doesn't because he's not mainstream anymore, right? Like Lupe is very kind of undergroundish. Like he had his like peak in the media wise, but he's still putting out, still like people sleep on him.
Yeah, and it's hard. I can't listen to like a whole hour straight of Lupe either. I can take him in small doses. So it's kind of like that with a lot of artists. I think since we've got away from like physical media and the excitement of buying an album, that's what I grew up in. So I'm sure you did too. Same. It's like, you get an album, you spent your hard-earned money on it. You hope to God it's good, that there's more than just the one song on there. But then you start to grow with that album because you couldn't just hit next. It's like that's what you had. So with all the streaming and everything, it's like my attention span too has fallen to the wayside. It's hard for me to get through somebody's full album. Even if it's someone I like, even if it's someone I love. It's like, okay, I'm kind of ready to switch it up after about 6 or 7 songs.
You got to you got to kind of go back into it. I've done that a few times. Like, man, did I really give this album a fair assessment? You know what I mean? What was I doing when I first tried to listen to it? Like, let me really sit down. You know what? This album's not as bad as I thought it was, or, and it's got some tracks on it. Like, oh, okay. Yeah. I just wasn't feeling it at the time, but I felt it later.
Some things take time to grow on you too, That's just like that for music. I think sometimes we have these expectations of certain artists, and then when they drop a new project, like the new Drake album, for example, it's like there's a lot of mixed emotions and feelings about it. I myself, not personally blown away with it, but also I think my expectations were high of a lot of rapping when I should have known he was going to be doing a lot of singing. I think that album's going to grow on me and end up being one of my favorites. But time will tell, right?
I also think like to that, and to me, I'm 36. So I think some things that you evolve in time too, right? Like there's some albums that you really loved back in the day that you probably outgrew a little bit, like mentally wise, like, and then there's some albums like that you didn't like back in the day because you weren't there mentally wise. And you're like, man, this stuff is really good. And maybe like the Drake album, like I just feel like maybe I'm kind of on the Joe Budden train. Like he's not making music for my 36-year-old having ass. He's making music for these young 20-year-old, 22-year-olds that are out there. So there's that generational type gap to me that I feel like. So I'm not saying Joe Budden's right, but I do kind of agree with like he is making music for the younger people, and maybe I'm a little bit too old for that type of music nowadays.
I can agree with that. It was harder for me, I guess, to relate and to touch on things where it sounds like a lot of it's coming from a place of being a single man. While I'm like married with kids now, which is
same.
I guess leads me into what I wanted to say next is like Don Tripp, right? He's this phenomenal artist. He's been around for a long time. That never really got his flowers on the underground. He has, but this year alone, he's dropped 9 albums. So he's dropped one every single month since the beginning of the year. Probably going to drop a 10th one here soon. It's like every 3-4 weeks he's dropping a new album, and a lot of what he talks about is, you know, I'm married now, I have kids, I still have that street shit deep down inside of me. Please don't make me bring it out. But it's like, okay, that's much more relatable than private jets and missed calls from supermodels and shit. I can't relate. I can respect.
We don't know
it.
that life. Hey, we don't know. Yeah, we don't know that life. Yeah, no. I get that 100. What got you into like writing music and trying to do your own thing?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, I had so many inspirations growing up. I remember as far back as I can remember, I would play music video, like where other kids were outside chasing squirrels, whatever they were doing in the woods, or, you know, it was different before the internet came out. I'm sure you remember. We ride our bikes and things like that. So when I was bored, I would go play music video where I'd take Walkman and I'd go out to this field across from our house, and I would like walk in slow motion and shit, like totally by myself, but pretending I was in a music video. I remember being just fascinated by music, all different kinds of it. So as I got older, it was about grade 7. I met a friend of mine who could play guitar, and I was mind blown at that. I'm like, holy shit, you actually know how to play an instrument? And I had been writing some song ideas that I originally thought I was going to be a rock star. I was a huge Blink-182 fan. I actually have a Blink-182 tattoo right there on the elbow.
Yeah. And their new album coming out soon too, so it'll be, you know.
Yeah. So I started writing like rock songs and things like that, and got up with him in 7th grade. And he had a recording software on his computer at home. And I spent a couple weekends over there where he would like play some notes on his guitar. I'd come up with lyrics and we'd record the shit. And it was terrible, terrible, terrible. I made, I think, 8 or 10 copies of it. So God forbid, I know of at least one person who still has a copy of that. But yeah, so I realized quickly I couldn't sing. I wanted to, but I couldn't. And that same year, 7th grade, I started making like some raps. And the first rap that I wrote, I did it at lunch in front of like, I don't know, 8 or 10 kids. My one friend, Mickey, he was like, I thought he was so super popular and cool. And I rapped it and he was like losing his mind. And then he was like taking me, I think after school, he brought me over to this group of people like, bro, spit that shit you was doing at the lunch table. And like that feeling that I got from that, I went right home, started writing another one. And I kind of never stopped ever since. The next year came, 8th grade, and there was a talent show at the very last day of school. And my 8th grade had like 800 students in it, just 8th graders. And yeah, it was a pretty big district that I was in. They had like 7th grade was one building, 8th grade was another building, and then you go off to high school. So the very last day, I wrote a song called Junior High, and it was about our 2 years that we had just spent. And I talked about one of the fights that was a big fight. I talked about the cop that was at our school. I had some lines in there, like his name was Shadow. And I had like my whole routine of what I did every day. And it was just kind of cheeky, but like at the end, like the whole auditorium stood up and was cheering. And then like I had to walk past everybody to get to the other end there wasn't like a backstage. It was strange as shit. So I'm walking this full basketball court and everyone's shouting out like, bro, I didn't know you could rap, or bro, that was fucking sweet. And 8th graders will tell you the truth. You know what I mean? So that was
yeah.
If you're not good, they would have been booing, because there was some people that got booed at that talent show. And I'm like, oh, fuck, man. I hope we'll see what happens. But
hopefully I don't get booed.
Yeah. So that's literally like the day my life really changed. And I was like, I'm going to take this shit serious. And shortly after that summer, I got with a guy who was much older 4 or 5 years older than me. he started paying for studio time and got me linked up with a couple producers, and we started really putting in work in the studio for like my whole high school year, or all 4 years. And then at the end of senior years, when I dropped my first album, and it went like underground crazy up here. I've recorded, I think, over 100 songs for it, and I picked 18 of them. So by the time the album came out, it was kind of like a greatest hits already. And this was still in the days of physical media, so we sold them out of the trunk of the car at $10 a piece.
Yeah, that old school grind. Yeah,
man, we sold like 4,000 or 5,000 of them just in that summer at $10 a piece. So as an 18-year-old kid, that's a lot of money. You know, we didn't need a record deal. We're like, we're doing this shit. So that's kind of my origin story.
What happened after that? So like you kind of this underground king of Ohio at this point in time. Like what happened? And you talked to me about before we went on air. Said, you know, I asked you, hey, said you got any music on iTunes or Spotify? You said no, I took it off of there. So kind of tell me what happened there.
So the first record that I made, the one that took like 4 years to do, I was working with this producer, and he kind of had a bad drug problem throughout those whole 4 years of working with him. And then he kind of went off the deep end, and I was just tired of dealing with him. I dealt with him so long. So I bounced around to a few other producers, but there was always some just some bullshit involved. It's kind of hard to say. It's like people would try to get you to sign off on the rights of your songs and things like that.
Oh yeah. They want you to do all the work, and they get all the money. That's greedy ass corporate motherfuckers, my friend.
Yeah, man. And so then I worked with a few different producers. I really didn't feel home anywhere. I kind of missed working with my crackhead producer.
Need to get down to the corner.
Yeah. And then I just bought my own equipment. I tried to cut everybody out, and I was like, I'll just record this shit myself. And looking back, there's a lot of good songs that I made, but the quality's kind of shit. So I'm a firm believer on quality. You like have to have good sounding quality. Doesn't matter what you say or how you say it. If it sounds like dog shit, nobody's going to buy into it. So that's the reason I took down a lot of that stuff. I listened back to it years later, and some of the quality just made my toes curl. Could have been one of the greatest songs I've written, but I'm like, God, I didn't know what I was doing with the software. So I figured I'd just take it all down. And I'm glad I did too, because there's now, especially in today's world of cancel culture, there was some very sketchy lyrics in some of those songs, you know, like hard F-bombs and things like that. Where back then it was more culturally accepted to say
FAGGOT.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
well,
things
F-bomb
like
me think you're trying to say fuck. I'm like, man, like if you're getting worried about getting cancel culture on the word fuck, I'm fucked, because I say it about 3 times every episode here. So I just wanted to make sure we were clear on the right F word.
Yeah, man. And I mean, some of the stuff is just it was me trying to find my style. I'm very like versatile from, I guess, the way I was.
Yeah, all music. Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah.
So like I have songs all over the place, man, that it's not just one style. I can rap in different accents. I can do all sorts of shit. And some of the stuff's fun, some of it's good, some of it I just hate. So it's better to just wipe the slate clean. I've been working on some new music. I do have a couple different producers now that are trustworthy, that have really good sound. And I also have my own studio set back up, and I've learned a lot over the years. So like the couple things I put on TikTok, I've recorded myself, and I'm like, yeah, the sound quality is not terrible. But I think officially this winter, I'm going to start booking some time and really at least put out another EP or maybe 2. Because I'm sitting on quite a lump of, I think, really well-written songs that have some substance and shit in them. So yeah, then I'll put it on Spotify. That way it'll be like my rebirth almost, to where no one's heard of me. They find me, oh man, this is his first album, but they don't know I've been doing this for 20 years, you know?
Yeah. They don't know the 8th grade story kid in his talent show spitting raps about middle school, you know?
Exactly.
What talk to me about your writing process? Like, do you write about like stuff that you've gone through, or what's that look like?
That's a good question too. So
No, that's what I do, man. You know,
yeah, you're good at this. It really depends on, I guess, the mood that I'm in, because I can be in some really silly, goofy moods where I feel like I just want to rap. I can be in some real gangster moods where I want to talk about just a bunch of street shit, you know. I'm thinking of birthing this persona, Lil Peepee, because he can get away with it. Lil Peepee, he can rap like he's from the streets and talk about all this shit, and then it can kind of get a pass because it's a character, right?
Yeah.
Because I do like rap. I like listening to that shit, and I like rapping like it, but I don't want to be. I'm not really that person who I've never shot at anybody, right?
Yeah. You're not living that life. You're not living that life. Yeah.
So I want to be true to myself, but I feel like my favorite songs and my best songs really come from like a place of true purity and like pain or something that I went through. And those are the songs that are the most relatable. So that's like as Proficey as it gets, is like when I'm rapping about my real life and shit that I've really done and really gone through and how I really handled certain situations. And then I've got like these other alter egos that I don't know. It's fun to play with. I was just talking with another artist friend of mine like that, but the writing process for me is I might have a line or two that comes in my head, and then I'll just start building off of that. And if I get like 7 or 8 lines in, I'll stop what I'm doing and I'll jump on BeatStars, which is a site. It's like an app where you can search for beats. And I'll start thumbing through, like, what is the feeling of this song? Is it, and you can actually search that in BeatStars. Shout out BeatStars. They should just start giving me free beats now.
Shout out.
But you can like look in search of the mood you're in. Like, is this? It's a really amazing site for anybody who's a musician or a rapper, especially, because you can type in your feeling of that mood and check like different boxes. Like I'm feeling grimy, boom bap, trap, pop. You can really narrow down your searches and get that sound you're looking for quick. And then if I find something that fits with those 6 or 7 lines that I wrote, then I'll just keep writing and I'll boom, I got a whole song done.
Do you like writing rhymes better, or do you enjoy the freestyle or more?
Definitely enjoy writing more. But I will say I enjoy writing what you would call a freestyle the most. Where it's like two minutes with no chorus. I'm not having to worry about a hook or anything. It's just like, just go, make it tight. Try to stay on a topic if you can. If you can't, just make the shit sweet. That's my favorite type of shit to write. I've got some of my favorite songs are like that, where it's just 2 or 3 minutes of me just nonstop spitting. That's what I like to listen to as well, like as a listener.
Yeah, I get you. So what started the TikTok and like, you know, the verse thing that you started doing, as far as when they said this, what inspired you to start doing that?
You know, I'm not really sure. I'm really not exactly sure what came over me. I feel like I had been on TikTok as just a user for quite a while, and I would make like silly videos, goofy little skits, things that I was doing on Snapchat that people were like, would message me about and go, "Oh my God, this is hilarious, bro. How are you not like YouTube famous?" And I tried some of that stuff out on TikTok, and it never really got any sort of like attention, really. And the one day I was just thought came to my head, like, you know what? I should make like a bars that made me rewind, or like rap lyrics that made me instantly rewind. I was dancing around the title for like the first 10 videos before I landed on bars that made me rewind, something that's nice, clean cut.
Yeah.
So the first one I did was Royce da 5'9", and it's a song called Life, and I think it came out in like 1998 or 9. and it's a song that he wrote to his newborn son, basically about don't make the same mistakes I did. And I featured a part of that on the very first one that I did, and I was an average like 90 views to a 300 view type thing. I woke up the next day, it had like 1,100 views. I'm like, oh shit, it had like most likes that I ever had. I think it had like 40 likes or something. I'm like, oh, okay. And I want to say the very second I got excited, I'm like, oh shit, okay, maybe I could try to do this. So I made a second video, and it was Lil Wayne. And I want to say it was my second one that literally shot to like, I got 1 million views in like one day. And I was like, holy shit. And it just worked itself out like that. I spent the next, I don't really know. I became kind of infatuated with it for a short time. I'm like, and then I had to work around getting flagged and my videos removed. And I've come a long way from that. I had to learn a lot of things the hard way about like how to actually get the songs on there without them getting removed. And at first I was just using the sounds that were on TikTok, which then I realized how frustrating that is because you
can't find the verse you're looking for. Is it because you can't find the
It's like it's not on there. It's like you might have the chorus and the second verse, but damn, I needed the first verse. And so that was kind of a struggle. Then I realized that like a lot of stuff on mixtapes wasn't getting flagged. And I had a speaker in the background too. I wasn't actually uploading the audio to the video. So there was a speaker in the back, and I'm like, okay, well, mixtape shit isn't getting flagged. And it seemed like every time I post something that was like mixtape Wayne, it would go crazy. And I don't know, it just seemed like it kind of blew up overnight. And the more I made it, the more people kept reacting to it and following and commenting and sharing. And I'm like, people like this shit, man. Shit that my wife would always punch me in the arm for when we're driving somewhere. She's like, God, all you do is listen to rap that's fucking 25 years old. And I'm like, that's when it was good.
Yeah. No, I feel you. My wife says the same thing. I can't get behind these. I couldn't tell you. First of all, I probably could. If you put up a lineup of like, introduce me to like 5 new rappers in the last, I don't know, 5 years or so, I probably couldn't tell you who's who and what fucking song they play. Cause I just don't, again, I think I'm getting older. So like that time is maybe past, but I still I peep all the old people stuff, right? Like I still listen to like the new Nas's and, Eminem's and those type of people who put out new album, the older heads that put out the new stuff. But, and there's a few people that I'm a big Joyner fan, love Joyner Lucas. So like, I always listen to his stuff, that type, and he's not even new to me. Like he's been out for a little while, but still like, I'll listen to all his stuff because he's just got that wordness. I mean, a guy you mentioned, Royce da 5'9", I feel like he's not very popular media strain unless you're a hip hop fan, because like he's kind of that underground, but his lyrics are so good as well. So like when you was going through, like, how do you know what verse to pick out? Is you just like wake up that day, or you like, hey, how does that process work to like pick the song that you're going to find the verse to? Cause like you be putting out some verses. I'm like, shit, man, I forgot about this damn song. And it's a while ago. I'm like, shit, I forget like how good that song was. And I'll go play it right then and there on my iTunes.
God bless you for that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know. I mean, a lot of people, because the TikTok page has grown pretty successful. I'm actually getting some good money from that app now, which is just such a blessing. And people ask me, how do you do it? And it's like, I always say, it's like God, God did. I just welcome.
And God did.
Exactly. God did. About 6 months ago, man, I really kind of started to get spiritual, and things started changing for me like instantly when I did. So God did, man. And I don't know, it's like how to pick what songs and what verses. Sometimes I'll just be sitting there minding my own business, and something will just hit me in the head and say, what about this? Or what about this? Plus, I'm also been listening to music and hip hop for so long. Some of this shit's just ingrained in me, and I'll sit down and I'll think for a few minutes or while I'm driving, and I'll go, and I'll just try to think, and I'll look up an album on Spotify or sometimes a mixtape, and I'm like, and I'll just thumb through it and go, oh, okay, yeah, this song. Like, I kind of cherry pick my favorite songs or songs that hit me the hardest on like older albums. It's kind of like what I've started doing. It's like, okay, what do I think is super dope, and what do I think the world is also going to agree on me with when I put this out?
Or maybe like they're like me and forgot how dope it was. Like, I feel like, especially like people my age, like we've, you know, I love all kinds of music, and we get into life and you forget, like, you know, how good a song was back in the day. So, you know what I mean? And you're just like, shit, man, I forgot how dope this song really was. Like, I forgot, you know, I was listening to T.I. Just last week, and I was like, damn, man, I forgot how good this dude could spit. Like, kids these days just don't know. Like, at one time, this dude was one of the top in the game, and like, I forgot how good he was, just because like I had just like clicked shuffle, and then I clicked unshuffle on my phone. It was like, it just was like all T.I., and I was like, man, I forgot how good this dude could spit back in the day.
Yeah, man. No, T.I. was my favorite. He was my GOAT for like a decade plus. He was my favorite rapper, hands down. Eminem was like number 2. T.I. was number 1. He was just, I loved everything he said. I loved his slang and how he delivered. Nobody had a delivery like that. I feel like he's the grandfather of mumble rap in a way. Yeah, man, song selection I try to think of a few things. Is it nostalgic? For one, it either can or can't be. If it's new, it's obviously not going to be nostalgic. But if it's going to be nostalgic, is it something that people might not know about or people have forgotten about? Those have been the most successful videos. Like I posted Eminem Bully. There were so many people that had never even heard that song. And I'm like, oh shit, I just opened up a whole nother box of Pandora here. And it got the wheels turning. Like, okay, people like when I can find one of their favorite artists and give them a song they've never heard. That's like, so if you can do that, be nostalgic, be an artist you grew up on, and be a song that either you forgot about or you never heard, that's like the trifecta right there to, like, I guess, draw people in.
Yeah, that's the perfect one. The perfect one. Let me ask you this, because I love when you go at a hater every once in a while. And so, like, is it just like, hey, I'm not gonna go at a hater? Because sometimes I'll get on my videos and there is 1 or 2 haters, and I do sometimes. I just depends on my mood. Like, all right, I'm gonna go back at this guy because, you know, I'm pretty good. Like, I love talking shit on the microphone, so I'll go at him and just try to bury him. But I know you probably get, because you're obviously a bigger brand than me. So I know you probably get way more haters, especially a white guy, white rapper. So we already know all the hate that's just going to come. Eminem, you've heard it all probably your whole life. Like, at what point in time, like, you're like, okay, I'm not going to go at this one, but I am going to go with this one. This one deserves it. Like, what makes you decide to go at the haters and that? Because I know you probably get a lot in your mentions, and which ones are you just like, okay, I have to murder this guy real quick?
Well, something I've been praying a lot about, man, because you shouldn't let any of that stuff ever get inside of your head, right? Because I've learned that people who do that are sick, and you should treat them like you would treat a sick friend. If you saw somebody in a wheelchair with an oxygen tank, it's the same thing, except you just can't see their ailments. They're sick in the head. So something's broken or disturbed in them, right? So I've learned the best thing you can do is pray for them, fight them with kindness, or if it's really gets under your skin, just click the comment, click on their profile, click the top corner, and hit block, and then poof, they're gone. That's how I've been trying to deal with things, or just ignore it and keep scrolling. But yeah, there have been some that I cherry pick out. When it's personal attacks, I try to either just ignore it or really just block him and move on, because I don't want all that like racist haterade shit on my page. I don't promote anything like that for anybody. But if they're going at one of my favorite artists, I try to use their comment against them and make them look like a fool. You know, when someone says, "Oh, well, Eminem hasn't dropped a good album in 20 years," and then you maybe put something new on there that's, you know, pretty recent, and then make them shut up. So I like defending some of my favorite artists, but yeah, it's something I pray about constantly, man, because I do get a lot. My block list is through the roof. When I was first starting to get, like, my followers were starting to go up, I would catch myself kind of replying to everybody and trying to, like, prove myself, and then I realized that quickly that's not going to get you anywhere.
That's what they want you to do. That's what they want you to do. Yeah, that's what they want you. They just trolls. Like, that's I tell, so like on my other show, we do a lot of sports debate and talking, and we'll get people like trolling on there or in the comment section. And I'll never, even on my Twitter, sometimes, like, I say I'm never going to ban somebody. I'll never even block somebody, because like a hater's a fan in my mind. Like, you ain't got nothing to do besides pay attention to me. So go ahead, keep paying attention. I'm going to keep doing me, baby, because that's the only way I know how to be. So I don't, and every once in a while, okay, I'll take my time out and I'll acknowledge you, and then I'm going to bury you. It's kind of how I do it. Outside of that, keep doing you, and I'm going to keep doing me, because you probably feel the same way. I may not be for everybody, but I'm for a lot of people. So I'm okay with that. So, you know, that's how I view it, is and you probably get way more than I do in the haterade Kool-Aid, but you just gotta let them be, man. That's what I say.
Let them be, man. Amen. And I don't know, it was over the summer. Somebody posted something and it just rubbed me the wrong way. It said something like, white people should never be allowed to, I guess, judge or whatever it was, like black music. They made it very black and white, just like that.
Yeah.
He said, white boy. That's what he said. It was the word white boy that just triggered a PTSD in me from like the neighborhoods I grew up in, and like hearing that word used to piss me off as a kid. So I just replied back with a video, real short. It was like 15 seconds. I'm like, first of all, I'm not a boy, I'm a man. And then I showed like my backyard. My kids were in a pool. Like, I've got a pool, a wife, children,
a house, a job,
all things you will never accomplish with that kind of mindset, you know. And I'm gonna pray for you, man, and I hope you do better, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. And the whole day my phone just blew up with notifications. It got like 500,000 views that day, and that's when I learned, okay, fight the hatred with love. Love always wins, man. If I would have went on there and said, listen here, you dumb, you know, motherfucker, and started going off, not only is
that might be me every once in a while.
I know we want to as humans, but I felt like when you take the high road and you take that spiritual way, things work out the way they're supposed to, you know. And hell, if I can turn a hater into a profitable video that makes me a few $100s off of your ignorant comment, I win.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for the content. Yeah. I mean, music, what people don't understand is music is like food. Like, everybody everybody should be able to taste it and eat it, and you get to decide whether you like it or not. You know what I mean? Like, and that's people in general. Like, everybody should be able to, you know what I mean? Like, you should be able to like something no matter what you want, no matter what it is, where it's from. It's like food. I like it. Okay. You don't have to, but I do. You know what I mean? Like, who are you to judge me for liking it too? You know what I'm saying? So, you know, it's all good. Yeah. What I know you said earlier, last question, a couple more questions for you before we get you out of here, man. I appreciate you joining me, Proficey. You said your top 10 is ever changing to me, and I think about that too. And again, I think that comes back with the more you evolve as a human, right? Like, do you feel like that? The more older you get, the wiser you get. You're like, oh man, like, this person is now changing me because I'm more into this music at this point in my life than I was, say, 5 years ago.
Yes, and first off, 10 just isn't enough. 10 isn't enough to pick from, you know? First it was 5. Everybody would have, what's your top 5? And then it moved
now it's like the Mount Rushmore, 10. Right? Now it's 4. Now we got to narrow it down to 4 because everybody got to know who on your Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, but like the Mount Rushmore is so generic to me. Everybody's got to have Jay-Z, Nas, Pac, Biggie, and then your fifth one is who? It's like, I don't know. I've always felt like, honestly, Pac and Biggie are a little overrated. All right, I'm gonna get probably attacked for it, but it is what it is, man. When people put them at 1, 2, or 3, it's like, yes, they paved the way. They're the godfathers of it. Their time was taken way too soon. But I've had this conversation with a lot of people. It's like, if Biggie didn't die, I feel like he would have phased out like anybody else from that era. If Pac didn't die, he probably would have went on to do movies and would have probably.
He's already doing movies. He's already doing movies. You know what I mean?
Right, but I feel like he would have been just a total movie star. So, I don't know. 10 is just not enough to choose from, because I do want to add those 4 people in there. But then that only really leaves me with 6 to choose from. And in a generation where you got, I can name 10 rappers just from the 2000s that I think are all-time greats. Like,
yeah, you got to break it down into decades almost, right? You know, eras. Really? You know what I mean? And that's what you have to do. And I will say this about Pac and Biggie, like Biggie's catalog is very somewhat small. You know what I mean? It really is. Pac's got a little bit bigger category, but as far as like album wise, but they're, you know what I mean? They didn't have time to have. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, they didn't have the time to put out just a mediocre album where people could have hated on, or especially in like today's time, right? Where everybody always looking to hate on something today. I feel like,
Oh, yeah.
They didn't have quite the catalog, to put out some mediocre album where you're like, hey man, the album wasn't as good as their other two. You know what I mean? Like their catalogs are smaller, so it's a smaller sample size. You're like, well, these 2 albums, man, that Big put out, Ready to Die and Ready to Live, like, or Life After Death. Life After Death, yeah. Like those 2 albums, right? Like those were bangers, like those were great, but he didn't have another time. Unfortunately, didn't have another time to put out another album or so to where you're like that you could compare and was like, oh, those are mediocre, right? Like Eminem put out 3 of the best albums, we're talking about diamond albums, and then he puts out Encore, and everybody's like, well, this shit sucks. And everybody's hating on it. Well, and then he's like, oh, he doesn't got it no more, right? And then it's like, but he still does. It's hard to top what those 3 albums, those first 3 albums did. Like, he'll never be able to compete with that. Nobody will ever compete with those albums, like as far as stream wise, money wise, and things like that. So it's just, they didn't have the catalog. So I wouldn't say they're overrated. I just think like they didn't have enough time to put out an album where it was like, meh, kind of mediocre-ish.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think even, Biggie Smalls, what helped his legacy so much was the album titles. It almost seemed like it was prophetic. Yeah. And so was Tupac. Yeah. Tupac did the same thing where he predicted his death. And that kind of adds this like illuminating effect to your already legacy. Because when you die, your streams go up times 20. I mean, that's just a fact, or 100. So the fact that like 2 weeks after Pac died, he comes out with a music video where he's dressed as an angel, and he predicts his own death after his death. It's just crazy shit. That's where all the rumors and shit is like, he's not really dead. So legacy wise, yes, but when people are like, he's the best rapper, I'm like, okay, well, bar for bar, you like Wayne surpasses both of them. I hate to say that, but it's, to me, it's the truth. But it's also, music is subjective. So, and I feel like people are connected the most to the music that they experienced when they were in their teenage years. Like, there's a reason
those teenage early 20s, right? When you're growing up, right? Yeah.
There's something that connects in your soul when you're growing and you're listening to music and it's pain or whatever it is, and you feel like
when you're trying to figure out yourself as a person, you know what I mean? And then you connect to that music as a person. Like, that's why I tell people, like, to me, and I said this earlier, I said, to me, like, I will always say Eminem's my favorite and the best to me because I found him at a time when I needed somebody. Like, his music connected to me as a poor white kid. He's a poor white kid. He's rapping about the same shit that I'm feeling inside. So of course, like, there's nobody that's ever going to be him because I don't connect to everybody else like that, like I do with what he rapped about, and I've connected to it as much, having bad, crappy parents and things like that. Been there. Hey, sign me up, man. Like this is like that's my life too. So I always tell people like he'll always be number one. And it's it's like the MJ LeBron debate. I tell people all the time I'm a Jordan truther. Like I get the case for LeBron, but to me, like it's like I can't look through it subjectively, so I have to tell people that, and I'm upfront about that, knowing myself too.
Look how pretty that shoe is, man. LeBron can never. I totally agree, though. I agree with you, man. MJ's the GOAT. They played a different ball game back then too. They're way more.
There he is, yeah.
LeBron's he's a big crybaby. I watched him cry this whole last season. Was like, my God, man.
I mean, you a kid from Ohio to say LeBron is not the GOAT. You know what I mean?
Facts are facts. I do own a pair of these. These are some pretty special LeBrons, though. These are the all black 15s with the gold, little gold laces. These are actually pretty exclusive. They're a little dirty now, but yeah, these were like a $400 pair of fucking LeBrons, which I never thought I'd buy or purchase. But he's just not Jordan, I mean. Yeah. But yeah, I totally relate to what you're saying about Eminem being the poor white kid and having him tell my story and being able to connect to that and relate to that for sure. So yeah, it's hard for me to pick a number one. I just can't choose between him and Wayne because they both do something different to me. M will make me get goosebumps on my hair, but Wayne will make me want to just rip my shirt off and throw my hat with some of the shit he says. So it's just two different feelings, I think, So yeah, man.
Yeah, no, I get it. Wayne had that his mixtape. Yeah. Wayne had that mixtape run right from like I don't know 05 to like 10 to like 10 to 10 was just phenomenal mixtapes. To me, his mixtapes were better than his albums to me. Like, and to me, new Wayne, like this last, like I don't know what it is. I just can't quite get into his new stuff. The new mixtape I listen to, I don't know what it is, if it's me or him, or maybe it's both. I just can't. I can't get behind it for some odd reason.
I give it a solid 2.5 stars out of 5. There's like 3 really good songs that I saved, and the rest was kind of like take it or leave it. Some of the stuff felt recycled. I'm like, I've heard him say this word, and that happened quite frequently on the Fix Before the Six. I'm like, he said this word, which is such a ludicrous thing to say, but it's the truth. It's like one of the reasons why Eminem's goated is because he's never really ever repeated words or on anything he's written. It's like
the rhyme cycle. Yeah, I feel like in all sense, Wayne to me just keeps rapping about pussy. Like, I mean,
he does do that.
I mean, that's all he raps about to me. Like, it's like the same. You know what I mean? Like, I get it, man. But at the same time, like, we don't need to hear about the same pussy or different pussy, in 8 different formats and the 8 different songs almost. I feel like ever since he got out of prison, that's like all he's rapped about. So I don't know if he's trying to tell us something. There's some underlining meanings. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I respect it though. I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah. Hey, Proficey, I respect you. Appreciate you coming on the show. Tell everybody where we can find you at, and we'll look forward to your new albums.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you for having me. Just search up at Proficey. That's Proficey on TikTok right now. Spotify coming soon, but that's the only place you can find me right now is TikTok, and coming soon to Spotify. I do have a Bandcamp too, so if you type in, if you Google just Proficey, you'll be able to find a catalog of all of my albums that I've made. They're still up. It's just not on Spotify, so you do have to do a little searching, but you'll find them, and they're all for free too. So.
Well, we appreciate you, folks. This has been another great episode of the BodkinShow. I'll be back here at 8 o'clock Central, 9 Eastern for the Let's Talk Sports Show, folks. Be a friend, tell a friend, like, subscribe, share. I'm going to hit that outro. We'll see you guys in just a few short hours for our Monday night Let's Talk Sports show. We'll have Jim and Jonathan. We'll talk wrestling. We're talking football and, MLB playoffs going on. So you guys know the routine tonight. We'll see you then. For Proficey, it's been a pleasure, my friend. Bodkins, we're going to hit that outro. We'll see you in just a few hours, folks. See ya.